Will the 49ers re-sign any of their unrestricted free agents?
There you go. This is an interesting one because when you look at the 49ers and their salary cap and like kind of the makeup of their team, their exclusive rights free agents and the restricted free agents are guys who seem to have more of a long-term future with the team. So all those guys, you can kind of pencil them in as coming back, and that puts the 49ers at about 47 players on their roster, and then they're going to have their rookies come in and things like that. So I think there's going to be a couple of them, but Laken Tomlinson is a guy that gets brought up all the time, and I find it hard to believe that he's going to be coming back.
Same thing. He's going to get a lot of money somewhere, right?
Yeah, I would think so. And really kind of the same thing with DJ Jones. I think the 49ers, might not be able to bring back DJ Jones. Those are the two of the top names that everybody keeps bringing up.
Right.
I think they might both
walk. Going to get multi-year deals, I would think, and get paid $10+ million a year.
Yeah, I just I feel like the 49ers are stuck with Javon Kinlaw. They can't get out of his contract because of the injury and also where the salary cap sits with him. So I think, looking at the 49ers history, they might just say, you know what, we're going to let DJ walk because he's too expensive, and we're going to try to fill in with Javon Kinlaw and these other guys,
Kevin Jones and all that. Yeah, not Kevin. Yeah. Kevin Givens. Sorry.
Yeah, because they have a pretty good group of these restricted and exclusive rights free agents for really when you look at the names there.
Certainly. So you also got guys like Jason Verrett. I mean, he could come back if he's willing to take like a really cheap deal.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, if they do, the guys that they bring back here are going to be cheap deals, 1 year kind of things, kind of to fill out the roster, give them like a prove it kind of a contract and get them in there and see what happens. And if they can stay healthy throughout training camp and earn a spot, then that's great. But otherwise, it's not costing a lot. I just don't see them maybe splurging quite as much as maybe some people think with their own this time around.
Let me name a couple more. Go through the names and tell me if you think they're coming back real quick. Raheem Mostert.
I see. That's one who I think that they need to resign, but I have a feeling that he's going to end up out in Miami with Mike McDaniel.
Okay. Jeff Wilson Jr.
He's hurt too much. I don't. Again, he
hurt too much. I'm with you, man. I wouldn't resign either one, and I like them both, but they're hurt too much.
Yeah,
they're hurt too much. You have Trey Sermon. You have Elijah Mitchell. You have JaMychal Hasty. Draft another guy in the 6th round or the 7th round and sign another undrafted free agent. That's the only way you, to me, acquire running backs from now on.
Yeah, they showed that they could. They showed they could sign guys in the middle of the season and bring them in and have them play games for them.
Thank you. All right, Ross Dwelley.
I like Ross Dwelley, but I have a feeling that they're going to move on from him this year because they have the guy from Tampa. Huh?
They don't use him.
No, they don't use him, and I think they're going to move. They have the guy from Tampa that's on the that they signed to the futures contract and was on the practice squad. I think that might be why they brought him in when they did.
I wouldn't be surprised if Dwelley goes to Miami because Embry. Okay, a few more. Josh Norman.
Well, you got to bring Josh Norman back because you can't.
Got to. I mean, what would this team be without Josh
Norman? Somebody needs to be able to force fumbles.
K1.
I don't think that he's going to be back.
Tart.
See, now Jaquiski Tart is one who I'd like to see back. I would really, if of the names that we've talked about so far, Tart is the one I think is most important
because he's actually pretty good. It would be very expensive to improve on that player, wouldn't it?
It would. Whatever capital they use to take over his spot, it's either going to be a high draft pick or it's going to be an expensive free agent. You can
get Justin Reed, but he'd be much more expensive than Tart, right?
Absolutely. And he's probably a better player at this point in his career than Tart is, but Tart's a very good player for what the Flyers ask him to do.
I got a few more. Arden Key.
Again, he's one of those guys. I think he's going to get more money on the market than the Flyers are going to pay, just based off. I think he's going to be this year's the version of what they had last year, where I can't remember his name. The guy that went and signed with, Kerry Hyder.
And they're going to think like we can just do this again, right? Like with Maurice Hearst. What do you think about him? They could bring him back.
He didn't. Yeah, he might be able to come back. He didn't even play. Yeah,
Jordan Willis.
I think Jordan Willis is somebody that they could probably bring back on a cheap deal. He was only, I think, $1 million this year, or somewhere around that ballpark. He should be able to come back for pretty cheap, and he was really he did a really good job for him. Between him and Charles Omenihu, that's a good second group.
Agree. Tom Compton.
Yes, I think he'll come back. They need to do something
Okay,
there with McGlinchey's leg.
I don't see why you wouldn't bring back Compton. I mean, he outperformed whatever they paid him this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they brought him in to play guard. Guy was a decent starting tackle. I was like, wow. I mean, the season could have went up in smoke when McGlinchey went down because very few teams have decent backup tackles.
Correct.
Very few.
Yeah. It's interesting because when you look at it as we're going through the list, we're talking most of the guys who we feel like are going to be back are the ones that are on the lower end of the maybe not not even the names people think are going to be back.
I got one more name for you. All right, this is a fan favorite. Haven't heard it in a while. Richie James II.
I laugh. I'm not laughing at Richie James but Richie needs somebody to return kicks. If Richie James could just come back and return kickoffs for him, that'd be a good signing for the 49ers. Would you rather have Richie James or Travis Benjamin?
Richie James.
Yeah,
Richie James had an all-time bad training camp, if I remember correctly. He did awful in training camp. I don't know what the deal was because he's really had good training camps, good games. Good. I don't know what that was. He seemed like he was like dying to get cut. Like, please cut me. I don't know what the hell that was. Hopefully, but he's an unrestricted free agent. We'll see what happens to him.
Yeah, he definitely seemed like he was struggling throughout camp.
Matt Davis says, how about we treat it as we are getting the number one quarterback in this year's draft and be excited instead of trying to replace him? Okay, fine. That's cool. Putting the second part aside because I just feel triggered by that. The first part is Lance would be the number one quarterback in this draft. I mean, I guess it would depend on what he did last year at North Dakota State, but I think he'd also be like the youngest of these guys who are coming out.
Yeah, I think so. I think he'd be if he was the only one that stayed back because there's pretty much everybody that was drafted with him at the top of the draft was guys that came out early. So if he's the only one that stayed in school, he would be the number one pick.
Brandon Scherf, Washington straight up for Jimmy. Oh man, Washington fans would be so happy. That would be the best. I have a first cousin who's a Washington fan. I hope they do that so I can call him and be like, hey, how you like that?
That'd be fantastic. Trade your quarterback for an offensive lineman.
That'd be great. I think we should look at trade Jimmy for a player not pick like someone on the offensive line. Yeah, Brandon Scherf.
There we go.
Trent Brown.
I had how about Montez Sweat was a name that I had thrown at me yesterday.
Montez Sweat. Why stop there? How about Chase Young? I swear to God, if they bring Josh Norman back, this organization needs to get fired. They better sign Stephon Gilmore. Trey Lance is the cheaper option. I swear to God, if they bring that's Niner fan PTSD right there. I love that. Josh Norman. You probably liked him about 3 months ago, but that bandwagon fell off the tracks quick.
I don't know if anybody really ever liked him because the only reason that people gave him the benefit of the doubt was because of all the forced fumbles. If it was,
it's true. It went from like, man, this guy can't cover to, oh, but he forces fumbles to, I think he's purposely giving up catches so he can try to force fumbles. Maybe it's time to get him off the field. And he's committing a personal foul penalty, or was it unnecessary? Was it taunting? I don't know what it was.
Yeah,
I mean,
taunting, personal foul, whatever it was.
That was a national view of Lance Shanny's fault for saying all season that the trade wasn't ready. That's the reason. Yeah, good point. Yes, it's basically the national media throwing Kyle's words back in his face and saying, well, prove us wrong. Fair. I always like upping the ante on Kyle Shanahan. It definitely brings out the best in him.
Did he ever say that Lance wasn't ready, though?
He implied it, I think, is basically what he did. But he never – I think he was careful enough not to freaking say that because that'd be a mistake.
Yeah, because I don't think he ever actually said it. I think it's just people saying, well, you had Garoppolo. Yeah. How's this guy not better than Garoppolo?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what you're telling us by not playing him is basically what people said all year.